What's going on, everybody? My name is Jacob Gettins, and welcome to the Outerzone, the official podcast of Formula Drift. We are here in Orlando. We are going to walk around, chat with the drivers. This is pre-battles, this is after qualifying. Going to get some thoughts, talk about their cars, talk about what they think is going to happen, get some predictions. So, hold tight. We've got an awesome show for you.
Oh, no! Whoa! Knock him out! Throw some more into it! Chelsea stays in it!
All right, we're here with Mr. Alec Robbins. How's it going, bud?
Good. Very good. Yeah.
Are you enjoying Florida? Are you pro or against Florida?
Kind of medium. I like the track. It's just kind of like a easy, flowy track that you can really, get tight, nice tandems on.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of boring at the same time.
Yeah.
The wall here is really nice though, because you can get right on it, and it's a nice smooth arc the entire way, so you can follow it nice, and yeah, it makes for exciting show, I think.
Yeah, it's. It definitely has its pros and its cons. I mean, I think it's a good equalizer, especially right now with kind of like how the tire situation is.
Yeah.
Which is. I think I made this prediction before that I thought the Kenda guys would do really well here and outlast a lot of the other drivers, because we even saw in practice guys are already running at a time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we were pretty good on tire. So we I think after a hard 2 laps, we really didn't get a whole lot in practice yesterday. Obviously, the track was terrible in practice from all the rain, and but yeah, we were like maybe to the wear bars after 2 runs. So
okay, so you still had a little bit left. Okay,
yeah,
that's good. That's good. I mean, that's the benefit, like the biggest benefit with these tires right now.
It's definitely nice not having to hold back.
Right.
It's always the worst when you go out there, like, in previous years at different tracks, and you get out there and you have to like hold back a little bit for either a lead or a chase, and that's never fun. It's always fun to drive all out the whole time. So
yeah, I saw a couple guys on different tires in that last Outerzone. Like you could hear them kind of throttling it, and then you're like, oh, they're checking where, whereas you were on it the whole time. Oh, yeah. No, it's good to see. I think you've really gotten the speed out of them now too.
Yeah.
You looked really fast on them.
Good.
So,
it felt really good. With a couple of changes they made to the track too.
Yeah.
I think that really helped off the bank, having that pavement that they added to the transition.
Right. Smoothed it out a bit.
Yeah, we really haven't had to go to too low in pressure either. We're pretty much where we were at last year.
Okay.
So yeah, it's working. So we're just going to keep going. Who
are you up against?
Darren Kelly.
Okay, interesting.
We had him last year too.
Oh, really?
And I ended up looping in the lead run, and then we made contact. Yeah. And then we both couldn't complete the second run. So, but because it was my fault, he moved on.
Okay.
So we're just gonna not do that again. And
let's
have a good time.
Let's not. So with a car like that, is there anything strategy-wise or anything like through your head where you're like, okay, these are the notes. This is going to come out after, so we're good.
Yeah.
This is you get to kind of predict what you think might happen.
Yeah, no, there's not really a whole lot of strategy going into it. Especially in top 32, we're just going to kind of keep the car consistent.
Okay.
As you move on through competition, we might have to maybe add a little grip to the car and things like that. But right off the bat, we'll just leave it where it works right now and drive it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Any other updates this year? We haven't had a full show with you and I yet, but is there anything major that you've changed this year?
No, not a whole lot. I started building a new car this winter, and as we got closer to the beginning of the season, it wasn't getting done on time, so we kind of just went back to the old car, Old Faithful, and it's for the most part pretty much the same. New tire and new look. That's about it.
I do like this livery. I mean, you've kind of had modest liveries over the last couple of years. I mean, the white and red one was kind of, I guess it was almost cream, wasn't it? It's like an off-white.
Yeah.
That one I remember very specifically. But seeing this, I mean, it looks great.
Yeah. We it's always wild. We've got auto trimmers. They do all of our wraps, and we just kind of let him go with it every year.
Nice.
And he does a great job. So it's really fun seeing it.
Yeah, it's good.
Come together.
It's good to see you like expressing it a little bit more. I don't know if you've ever thought about doing something like Minnesota hidden in there.
Yeah. I've definitely thought about it, doing like pine trees or a lake or
cool.
something weird. But
should do like the inside, like do the dash, like a big beach or something like that. No, that's awesome. Any other like updates, changes, or pretty much just the same chassis?
Yeah, same chassis. Straighten some stuff out. The usual off season, like refreshing, everything up, and making sure it's running good, and that's about it. Yeah,
cool.
Just keep it consistent. And
which round are you looking forward to the most this year?
Probably Utah.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be good again.
I think so too.
Yeah, last year we had some motor issues out there, so we didn't get a whole lot of seat time.
Let's talk about that real quick, because you guys did something insane to get through that weekend. Do you want to get into that?
That was interesting. Yeah, so the motor was getting tired after, that was towards the end of the season, and we already had like half of another season on it. So the motor was starting to get tired. Rings were getting worn, and we were starting to get a lot of blow-by, which increases crankcase pressure, which was starting to blow seals out. So we had one of our practice runs, it blew the rear main seal completely out and caught on fire, and the whole underside of the car was on fire, and in the car you can't tell. So I just did the whole lap, just totally engulfed in flames, and it was pretty sweet. But so we ended up putting a rear main seal back in it, and then in order to try and keep the crankcase pressure down, we ended up attaching a cordless vacuum cleaner to the oil cap to try and suck air out. As it was leaking past the piston rings, and then we were just trying to get air out of the crankcase as fast as we could to try and keep the pressure low enough to keep the seal in.
Which is crazy.
And it worked, kind of.
Yeah.
So
hopefully you don't have to do like anything like that again.
Yeah, no, hopefully not.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you do run the car pretty hard, so I can see it happening eventually. But that engine was in there for a little bit, though.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was about time.
Yeah, typically, we refresh them every year, do rings and bearings and things like that.
Nice.
That one had, I think we had a weird crank failure or something the year prior, so it had only a half a season on it, so we didn't do everything to it.
Yeah.
And just about one season. That's all I can go for. Yeah.
Any other cool events anybody can see you at this year that you're lining up?
We'll be up at a lot of local events. A lot of we've got ND Drift up in North Dakota. We do, and then basically everything we can hit that we're not out at FD. We're up in Minnesota doing all the local stuff, so having fun. Yeah. Good.
Well, I'm really liking the progression.
Thanks.
I'm glad like I said, it looks like you've dialed in that tire.
Yeah.
Obviously it takes a bit of time to get situated on a new tire.
It's definitely getting there.
But it is significantly faster, significantly more grippy, and I'm excited to see what you can do.
Yeah, me too.
All right, dude.
Cool.
I'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Cool. I think we're good. All right. Do you enjoy doing that? I can always tell how well a podcast is going to go based on what the clap looks like.
Yeah.
So
Does everyone clap after you clap?
Well, during the actual podcast, I tell them to so we can sync their audio too. But
okay.
you just did it impromptu.
I just copied you.
You're just media trained at this point.
Yeah.
That's all good. If you guys didn't know, we've got Travis Reeder on, if you couldn't tell by the voice. How's your weekend going? Cars up on jack stands. That can either mean a really good thing or a really bad thing.
It goes on jack stands every night.
Okay.
It's a good weekend. Just typical Orlando stuff. You never know what the weather's going to be. And trying to find a setup in the car to cater all weather scenarios is kind of tough. But luckily we had a dry qualifying and had a good setup in the car for today. We're going to make a couple of changes and should be pretty dry for the rest of the event, knock on wood. So
what is you don't have to give away like specifics, but what is your process? So like we come in here, we know it's going to be kind of raining, maybe not raining. What is what do you set up first? Do you set suspension dampening? Do you just go, hey, this has worked from the last round, we're just going to mess from there? Like what's your, I guess, workflow?
Yeah. So usually what we do is we just kind of set up the car based on data we had from the year prior. Right. We've been coming to Orlando for a while, so we have a lot of data from 2 or 3 years past. So basically, you kind of baseline the car from what it was last year, but things always change. Rarely will you come into an event and the setup stays identical.
Okay.
Because the driving evolves, the track kind of evolves, they change layouts and stuff. So we start with our baseline, and then some, alignment tweaks, tire pressure tweaks, just little odds and ends stuff here and there. If we have to make a massive change, we try to combat it like right away in first practice. Okay. And I try to do my best to find that. Like when that scenario happens, I try to find it right away and get rid of it. If there's like, oh boys, we're like way off. Yeah, we got to change this, and then just rolling from there. So try to stay comfortable.
So stuff like gearing, spring rate, those are pretty locked down. If you're running sway bars, you've kind of got that sorted. It just comes down to like, we're a little bouncy. Let's change some dampening, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because like we don't get a ton of practice at these events, so whatever you can do to make the car as drivable as possible out of the box is super important. So you kind of have to choose your battles sometimes because you want to get as many laps as you can, even if the car is not ideal. I feel like sometimes the seat time is more important.
Right.
And you can kind of work your way into making the changes a little later. For example, like in practice yesterday, I had a little like running in the wall, but like I came in hot and I drove out of the angle to kind of parallel the wall, and I got the left rear into it.
Okay.
And like I could tell that the car, like that the alignment was changed. So like I moved the trailing arm over, and we had a toe problem. But I didn't know if the trailing arm was bent or if any of the arms were bent. But I was like, yo, boys, grab the turn plate and re-tow this thing and get it as close as you can so we can finish practice. We'll deal with it later. Because like I didn't want to give up. I was almost at the front of the line. And practice line takes a while.
Yep.
So I wanted to make sure I got that hit, even if the car wasn't ideal. The seat time was more important. So
interesting. Okay, so it's more of like, hey, I know how to drive. I can drive around some of these conditions, but like I can't just make seat time appear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Obviously, like if it's something like sketchy, you don't do it. But something like usually like, okay, if you don't see anything cracked or bent or hanging off or anything crazy, like jack the car up if the wheel's tight, like wheel bearing, everything's good. Like I'm just gonna send it, and then we'll be fine. So
you and I've chatted like off camera and stuff like that, and it sounds like you very much enjoy doing the driver mod a little bit more. Where you're like, okay, I'd rather get in and just make my adjustments because those I can do consistently. Whereas like mechanical, you get out there and you don't always know what's about to happen.
Yeah. And actually, before that, used to bite me in the ass. I used to try to drive through everything,
right?
And that's kind of a downside unless you have a good setup in the car. And over the years, like I've been working pretty hard with the team to make the car good out of the box. It's like extremely important to me, obviously. And it makes my job easier with making my driver adjustments if the car's more on point. So we're lucky enough to have a car that we have a lot of data on, and it's usually 85% there out of the box when we roll out of the trailer. And then I can make my adjustments based on what my spotter gives me. So
gotcha.
Yep.
So as somebody who has spent a lot of time in both a BMW and an S chassis, which one? Is there BMW for sure?
All day.
Really?
All day, dude.
Man.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like was a diehard Nissan guy. I guess.
Know.
Like I was, my S13 I used to compete with, Old Red.
Yeah.
That's what we called it. So that car I bought when I was still in high school.
Okay.
So 2010, I bought that car. And it took me through from the beginning, like every little mod started in that car, and it was always that car, and all the local events to Pro-Am to, I did my first engine swap on that car. That was my senior project.
Oh, sick.
So all the way through Pro-Am, all the way through Pro 2 into Pro 1 for a few years. And that car kind of like went with me. And then what kind of ruined it was I found an E36 M3 on Marketplace, and it was cheap. And at the time, it was cheap. And I bought it and started practice carring with that. And I was like, damn, this thing drives so good. And I drove my E36 for 2 years before I transitioned from my S13 to a Pro chassis, E chassis.
Interesting.
So I had kind of like a background of the car and had some driving experience in it before I swapped. And as soon as I took everything out of Old Red and put it into this chassis, the first time I drove it, I was like, damn.
What have I been doing my whole life?
Like, I've been messing up, dude.
I think that's important though. You talk about driving this chassis before you're competing in this chassis.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that is people not doing stuff like that is a massive mistake?
It all comes down to like, I tell people try to pick a chassis that has good aftermarket support unless you have like obviously an R&D department behind you.
Really,
I got to tweak with it. I had Drift Dad lived close to me. So Chelsea was like 15 minutes up the street.
Drift Dad.
So, I was driving those cars a lot at the school.
Yeah.
Every time I had like an weird issue with the car, he was pretty helpful when it came to like finding a setup that worked for my driving style. We would always bounce ideas back and forth. And that was even way before the pro stuff.
Yeah.
So, I kind of had a good idea. He kind of led me in the right direction when it came to like not making certain mistakes with the chassis out of the gate.
Okay.
And then I just kind of applied that knowledge to this, and
it's obviously working.
Yeah, I do not regret it.
No. You took to it really quick. You look comfortable in it really quick. I don't see any issues with sticking with this for as long as you can.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like the E46, in my opinion, is like the best bang for your buck chassis. They're everywhere. You can get a shell for basically free for the most part and build it from there. And the suspension is just really good out of the box. They're super simple. And then I don't know. The only way I would like jump in a different chassis would be like if it was some sort of factory backed kind of option, arrive and drive program, maybe something like that. I don't know, but I don't see myself leaving this anytime soon unless some like pretty cool opportunity arises. So
yeah. Darren's like, hey, by the way, I need somebody to sub in and like,
drive this Aston.
Drive the Aston. It looks interesting. I mean, I don't know from your perspective, like looking at a car like that, is it like, man, that seems fun, but an absolute nightmare to try and figure out.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those examples, right? Of like they've been road racing those cars for a while, and they had the chassis left over, so they had a lot of data based on it, and just kind of converted to the drifting stuff based on his experience. You know,
coming from like GTR and
But on the other hand, that car is fully custom front to back, so
crazy.
All your spares you're building in house, and every change you want to make is a custom change.
Yeah,
so that makes that tough, but they also have they have the data from the road racing to kind of help
they've got the backing too. I mean, like let's be honest, right? They have the ability to do something like that.
Yeah. The car's killer sounds sick.
It sounds incredible.
Like, they're making good strides. Like the thing's like getting fast.
Yeah.
And he's starting to get more aggressive. And you can tell he's like not scared to
hurt it anymore. I think he's heard it a couple of times now. And I think once you get over that, like you kind of have to wreck it once to be like, okay, that's the worst that's going to happen. Moving on. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You always like, every time I paint this car and it's fresh, beginning of the year, I like scratch it or like kick it or throw something at it. Yeah, you gotta have the first dent. It's like getting a brand new helmet or whatever. Like you immediately walk over the grass, you drop it.
I've never done that.
Oh, that's the thing. That's what you do.
Man, I'm gonna have to start doing that. I didn't realize this was painted. Is it just painted with graphics over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I always paint my cars.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. I'm weird.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
But like I paint the inside to match too. So like the whole chassis gets painted. I like when the interior's gloss just like the chassis. So like.
Do you don't worry about reflections or anything like that? You just don't care?
No.
It's not,
I mean, the dash is still black. Like.
Yeah.
So you don't really get, I mean, I can't see anyways. Look at the filter.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I always just look out the window.
What is the eye line? I guess you're not looking for it all that often. You look for it for like what, 100 feet and that's it?
Yeah, I'm used to it now. I kind of just like X-ray through the center of it, I guess.
Your eyes just focus around it.
Yeah, I like go like this.
I remember seeing somebody recently had, I don't know what the car was, but had like a huge stack coming out, like a big blower. And I'm like, how do you how do you even with that?
Yeah, we're drifting. The only time that kind of gets a little tricky is obviously like a very slow transition, like behind a car. If it like how this track was last year, where it kind of promoted the straight line across the center where you're stuck in the smoke and it's a really slow transition, which we all hate. That's where it gets kind of tough because I'm like in the smoke and have the box and I'm trying to like judge my way through it. But tracks that promote more like snappy transitions, like Jersey and like, stuff like that. It's like, I don't even notice it anymore. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I'm glad things are coming around. Like driving wise, it's getting there. I think it's just a couple of tough breaks already this year, but you get there.
Try to get those out of the way.
Yeah. You just get them out of the way early, right? Exactly. Like if you're winning early, then you have to keep that momentum all season. If you have like a couple rough rounds, then it's like, cool, we can just go up from here. So
right.
Sick, dude. Well, I'm glad everything's working well. I'm glad you're liking the BMW and hopefully everything works out for you this week.
Yeah, man.
So,
appreciate it.
Sick.
Thanks.
All right. All right, we got Mr. Beechum here. How's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. How are you enjoying the BMW? I want to start with like a really good note. Not that the Mustang was terrible.
It's a lot different. Yeah, and driving this compared to the Mustang isn't very comparable, but it drives a lot better. Not having a solid axle, I think, is easier to drive, and more predictable, a little easier to toss around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's great. It's nice to drive something new, get used to something new, and drive a little like with more of my style, I think.
Yeah, I think that's come back. I mean, in Pro 2, with that Mustang, you definitely had a lot of style. You were able to whip things out really, really well and catch it. But I think now, just with the bigger tire, the faster competition, like as much as it'd be nice to do those things on that solid rear axle, you're just...
Yeah,
it's tough.
Especially competing with these Pro 1 guys, they're not playing around. So bringing like a Pro 2 Mustang to Pro 1, it was, hey, let's try it, but obviously in the end it wasn't the right move. So now I think the BMW is definitely hanging in there with these guys though. I think
it was a good idea to start at least because then you're like, okay, I can understand these tracks I've never been to. I'm in a car that I'm comfortable with. Now I just have to, at this point, dial it in a little bit more.
Exactly.
But yeah, I was just looking. So are you running a CO2 sprayer or is it water sprayer?
So it's a nitrous actually. So it's a LS3 with a Vortex supercharger and some nitrous on it. But our purge is actually just purging into the intercooler. So when we're in line, it's like a little extra cold air for it.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah. I mean, everybody likes to purge it at the hood, which looks sick.
I have one out the hood just so I can see it, so and the other one we're trying to put some use to it, Yeah,
well, I mean, you're just wasting the product, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good idea. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was like the early 90s when everybody had like the CO2 intercooler sprays. Remember those?
Yeah.
I was like,
back in the day.
Somebody bringing that back, that'd be awesome.
We should try.
Yeah, I mean, might as well. I mean, if it works, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then running obviously is it Vortex supercharger that's on it?
Yeah, it's a YS3 Vortex supercharger.
Okay.
It's making like 980 horsepower right now.
Damn.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Hoping for a little more, but we'll get there. I think it's good enough to start for this year.
Start changing some pulleys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a little more, but she's ripping. We're good.
Yeah, it's good. How have you been enjoying this? Yesterday was crazy with just like...
Yeah, the rain yesterday was awful. I think in the morning, it wasn't really worth it to drive, so we actually sat the first practice out, then came back in the second practice with the light rain and started tuning in a rain setup if we needed it.
Yeah.
And then once it came dry, I was like, oh, perfect. Throw the dry setup in, and it was back to ripping. So
yeah, and just started lighting it up from there.
Yeah.
Who are you up against today?
Dylan Hughes. Be a good E46 battle.
That'll be a really good battle.
I feel like we drove a lot in Pro 2 together and stuff like that. So now I know he's not going to play any games or anything like that. So it'll be a nice heads-up battle, I feel like.
I think that's a really like square matchup too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
I'm excited.
Yeah. I feel like he's just one of those guys that you can run doors with, and there's not going to be...
He's not going to play no games. He's not going to try to brake check you or anything.
Yeah.
Hold the clutch in. It's just like, I'm floored and you're floored. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, and you guys had to have battled in Pro 2 back in the day.
I think... I'm trying to think where
I want to say Texas.
I was going to say Texas.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's what event I won actually. And I think I battled him and LZ in the finals or something like that. And
right. I think so. Yeah.
That was a crazy one.
I think that was the last year of Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I do miss that track layout.
We need to go back.
I know. What other rounds are you looking forward to this year?
I like Utah a lot, actually.
Everyone keeps saying that, yeah.
I mean, the entry at 110 is hard to beat, like coming in super fast, and it's a nice big track. So I think there, and then obviously Irwindale, is a local home track, so that's always a fun track as well.
Yeah. What's the travel been like for you this year? Like with the logistics of all of it, are you kind of flying in? Are you going with the rig?
I just stay with the rig 24/7. Yeah, so I just came from Atlanta, hung out in Florida for about a week or so, and then
not a terrible time.
Yeah, no, came right over here, just hanging out, racing now. We'll head to New Jersey next, hang out there for 2 weeks or so, and then get back into the car over there.
It feels so condensed this year. I know it's not that much different than years past, but I feel like these rounds are so tight, and then we've got a bit of a break, which is kind of nice. But
yeah. And with the Pro 2 stuff, it always makes it a little more hectic when they're on the race as well with us. But
those days are so long.
Yeah, for real. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
It's a full work week right there.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm glad they're getting you guys in with extra practice. It looks like the pro spec guys are getting a little bit extra practice, but I think that's just...
I'm glad they dialed in that schedule, though.
Yeah. It still makes for a lot. You're basically at the track for 12 hours a day, right? So,
yeah, it's a long day.
Yeah, definitely a lot. How have the Nexans been? I feel like that's a tire that not a lot of people are talking about. There's a lot of conversations about the V-Tour tires, conversations about the Kendas coming in, but like, how have the Nexans been holding up, especially with like the high deg we see here?
I think they're great. I don't really have any issues. I've been on them for maybe 5 years now, since Pro 2 and everything, and moved into Pro with them. It's just pretty much me and Ken on Nexan trying to hold it down, but no really issues with them. I think they're better than some of the new tires that are coming in, and they're pretty equal with some of the tires that already been here.
Nice.
And they make really good grip, and they seem to last the whole track. So
if you're
not much to complain about.
I was gonna say, if you're getting 2 full laps here, then there's not much else that was gonna.
I was worried about the other track layout, but with this one, I think we're set. So
yeah, we haven't actually. I didn't even bring that up with anybody else yet. What went through your head when you saw that pop up? Was it?
What were they thinking?
Really?
What are you thinking? Like, because we already know when we came here last year, it's people's tires are not lasting at all.
Yeah.
So you take the guys who are making more power than me, and I'm like, dude, these guys are not going to make 2 laps on a 6-track turn, and all the banks and everything really eat the asphalt's not the best here, so it eats up the tires really fast as well. So I'm happy that they went back to the old track.
Yeah, I do think that extending out one a little bit more, kind of making that transition a little bit further apart.
Yeah, a little smoother. Try to get away from that big hole in the dip right there.
And I don't think we're hitting the jump as hard this year.
Yeah, that I haven't noticed either. It's kind of nice too. I'm coming across all smooth and everything.
You're just waiting for it?
Yeah,
bracing yourself?
I guess my car's going over it super easy, but I guess we're moved the track, like you said, a little more S-shaped this year, so it's nice.
Yeah, it's this track is just so weird.
Yeah.
In that regard. I remember there was jokes about starting to have jumps and stuff like that, and then it's they kind of have one now in Orlando. Erie kind of had one too. So
yeah, I remember that one too. That was crazy.
I think maybe they just put in an actual jump.
They
at
should,
some
and then
point.
put a rail we can grind on it or something.
That'd be cool. I mean, or maybe we just put titanium bars in the front or whatever so we can get sparkers.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. I think all rear bash bars should have like 2 magnesium plates on them or something.
And then every time they drag, they're just sparking it up.
Well, I saw, what was it? James Dean grabbed the e-brake in one of his practice runs and he sparked like crazy. And I was like, I wouldn't put it past RTR to put sparker plates on the bottom.
There for the show.
Exactly, exactly. I think that's what we bring into it, right? Like everybody.
Got to get some excitement for the fans out there.
Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, I'm sure Kevin
a
would
little
be like,
extra, you know?
I mean, cars are already lighting on fire, right?
Last night that happened to me, I guess. My outside left tire caught fire during qualifying.
That's crazy.
Crazy. I never had that.
Do you have your fuel vent or anything coming out that way?
No, it was weird. Nothing's out there. It was just this back left over here. I'm thinking maybe from the exhaust or something like that.
Maybe.
It's happened to Forsberg a couple times.
Forsberg like lit on fire.
You know, he knows it a couple times. I'm like, that's the first ever.
Alec Robbins cooked his brakes. They caught fire.
Really?
Yeah, his front left, I think it was, caught fire from left foot braking. I'm like, dude, you need to set your bias a little bit.
A little more to the rear.
Yeah. Are you using, like, obviously you have to use left foot braking here to hold things up. Is that something you're really comfortable with? I know some guys are.
Yeah, I don't mind it too much. I try not to use it as much as possible, you know, because I don't want to slow myself down. I try to get myself more set up on a line to where I could just keep it floored and maybe touch it 1 or 2 times if needed to either stay on line or get me a little closer to the wall. But here mainly for the bank, it's just a flick in 4th gear and keep it floored and maybe tap it, like I said, 1 or 2 times. But then when you get to the outer last bank, a little more left foot braking there to try to stay on that line when you're going.
So you're not running up on the wall.
Because you got to stay in between like the crevice of the bank and the flat there.
Can you feel that in the car if you start backing up on it? Does like the car start to like lean forward?
It does a little bit of like a little pitch like that. You can feel it for sure.
So you know, you're like, all right, a little bit
slow
too much
down a little bit right there. Yeah.
Getting a little too high. So. Sick. All right, dude. Well, I mean, I'm happy to see you dialing in this car even more. When you came out in Long Beach, you did like a couple of practice runs. I can't remember who I was sitting with. I looked over. I'm like, that is the Beechum I know. Like that's what we're in for all season.
Yeah, I'm excited. And that was like our 3rd lap of the car ever in Long Beach. So we really have been driving this car maybe 10 times total, just at FD every time. And I had 2 test sessions at home. So still learning every race here. Super nice though to have something reliable and something fun to drive again. Yeah. It won't be long, man. I'm sure we'll see you up on the podium soon. Yeah, I hope so. Good seeing you. Thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon. See you later. All right, Darren, how is your weekend going?
It's been pretty good.
Yeah.
It's been a challenging weekend for conditions because it's been rain, sun. Yeah. Never knowing what you're going out in. So car setup's been a challenge, but hopefully today looks good. So I much prefer obviously the dry. Don't mind if it was wet and we had to deal with that, but it's a lot more fun in the dry. And for the fans and everything, it's obviously a lot more fun to watch. So pray for the dry weather.
The wet has the benefit of like much easier on the car. You're not having to worry about tire wear as much. It kind of evens the playing field with power. Yeah. But the dry is just way cooler.
Oh yeah.
100%.
So much more fun from a driver's perspective. From a team perspective, the way it's probably a lot easier on the car.
Yeah.
And obviously,
the mechanics are like, I don't mind drying a car off. I just don't like having to replace drivetrain components.
And tire wear is a bit of an issue. Yeah, like if you do a full 100% committed run. Yesterday we gave that a go, just getting prepared for qualifying, and almost used a set of tyres in 1 lap. So it's pretty easy to blow the tyre and just have nothing left for lap 2. So we've got to work on that today and try to make the most of the car for 2 laps and see where we end up with that.
Yeah, the qualifying plays such a big role here because sometimes chasing first can actually be better because you've got full tire in it, whereas the other guy's cooking them, and then you can a lot of the times have leftover tire for your lead run. So qualifying lower can actually be a massive benefit here.
Yeah, which is something we said at the start of the weekend. I was like, it probably isn't, especially with the proposed course layout for having the extra extended loop. So I was like, this isn't going to be easy. Yeah. But that was kind of a thought that we had based on that layout to see if we could qualify maybe not up the top, because having no tyre left on your chase run is just going to allow the lead driver to drive away from you. So, it's something that you can consider as a bit of a strategy sometimes. We didn't, we're around 24th, I think. So I think for most of the day we will be chasing first. So I think it's still a bit of an advantage even with this layout. Okay. I'd much rather have a good tyre on the second pass. Right. And you generally use, I think, around 30 to 40% of your tyre on your chase run. Right. And then your lead run, you've really got the clear air and you really put a good lead down. So if you can have the advantage of the tire at the end of it, then hopefully that's a bit of an advantage for your second pass.
Yeah, and I mean, I think some of it too having to do with like the actual tire temperature as well, because like they cool down a little bit when you come back around, but they're still absolutely cooked. And when you're warming them up, they do get up to temp, but they are not at the same level that they're at after a full run. So coming in afterwards with like a smoking hot tire, like that plays into it as well.
Yeah, and if you haven't got anything like a puddle of water to drive through, then they really do take a long time to cool down. Like a tire will stay hot for a long time. So going into your second pass, it does chew the tire very quickly through, especially a full throttle bank corner like this, where you can't drive it easy through the corner because you've got to try to keep the back of the car up on the wall. So you can't really sacrifice your line or your driving to try to save the tire. All you can do is try to feather it a little bit more through that infield section where you've got a little bit more forgivingness in the car, and try to save the tire there and not overspin the tire when you're going through that second outer zone. But yeah, it's a challenge. Obviously, in the driver's seat, you're like, I just want to be doing the best run I can all the time, not thinking about tire wear.
Meanwhile, other people are like, hey, listen, you're not going to have anything left if you do that.
So that's a struggle, but everyone's sort of dealing with the same thing. And everyone's got to manage that. So
I think with your car in particular, just due to the unique sound and just how loud it is, like everybody can hear what you're doing on throttle, which is super cool, because it doesn't matter who you're up against or driving with, you can hear this engine above everything else just on a completely different frequency.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, even in practice yesterday, I could hear times where you were playing with that Outerzone 2 and like trying to figure out, okay, how much throttle it can get out to. And I think for people watching at home, it's a good indication of like, if you want to become a better driver, you can use your eyes, but you need to use your ears a lot more to understand what these guys are doing.
Yeah, and throttle control is a massive part of it. Like, it's easy to overspin the tire, especially this car makes a lot of peak power up top. It's a very tricky car to drive and to keep in the power band. If you let it fall off too much, it's going to bog down. You're going to make a correction. So you've got a shorter window of where you can sort of feather the throttle and keep it in that happy place. And then that's where we've got to like focus a lot on car setup and try to make sure that our wheel speed, our diff ratio and everything is correct for the track, and we can work in that area that we want to be in and not be doing 3 gear changes throughout the section and up and down here, third through there, fourth through there, back to third, up to fourth. Just gets messy, especially if you're in a chase position and you've got to adjust to a car in front of you. So
the more you have to do in the car, the more likely it is there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like you're the problem, but like if you're having to do several gear shifts, there's a higher likelihood that there'll be a misshift or something. Definitely the keep it simple stupid is which is funny because this car is anything but simple. It is like insanely complex.
But it's part of the challenge, and that's sort of like a fun part of it for me with drifting. Like, it's always about trying to do something unique, do something different, have this is kind of an example of that.
But even the GTR was an example of that at the time, right? Like you were very much on the cutting edge of developing parts for that, where we saw guys in the US trying to drift them and struggling, but you were back home absolutely shredding at the same time. So
and when you get them right and you have success in them, and I've won 2 pro championships in that car, and that's up against there's an RTR Mustang down there. There's Silvia's, like S15s that have, the development that have gone into them over the last 20 years.
Forever.
It's almost like you can't compete with that. And to have something that is successful against those cars is sort of more of an accomplishment to me, when you can build something that no one else has done, have it competitive and be up against the best guys.
And then win.
And win, is a huge accomplishment, I find. This was a massive challenge, obviously, doing something different coming up here. Would have loved to have had more test time in between or before last season. Obviously, COVID, everything played a massive factor in all of that. Traveling from New Zealand, the guys up here have done an incredible job building the car and getting it to the point that it was at. But for them, like, they were basically held up by things out of their control. So it's just a unique chassis that every single part of it is custom. You're relying on so many people to come together to make it happen. It's just you run out of time.
Yeah.
So
the development is very different than something like a BMW. We talked to a couple of BMW drivers where it's like, hey, you know what parts you need? Yeah, I'll buy this. I'll buy this. I don't like this. Cool. I'll go to this brand and get that. Whereas this is, I don't want to get too far into it because I want to do it for a standalone episode, but the amount of custom 3D printed parts that are in here, the things you guys had to do to make this, 1, legal, 2, fit. Like, even just looking here, you've got rads pointing in directions that I didn't think they should be. It's
surprisingly wild. Like it's a big car from the exterior. Like it's super wide. It's actually really confined, really small in all the areas you want to put everything, like the radiator, the oil cooler, the fuel system. The engine was never obviously meant to be in this car.
Right.
This came out with the V8 twin turbo. Now V12, you added 4 cylinders in here. That's not an easy task.
No.
And 2 superchargers. So it's a very, very challenging thing to make work, especially sticking with the rules and like not modifying firewalls and towers and things like that. So massive credit to these guys to make that work, because everyone was like, that's not going to fit. And when you measure things, you're like, I don't think it's going to fit.
But we talked to Kevin on the show a couple weeks ago, and like I asked him like, what was that like? He's like, we started like 2 years before they even showed up. Like I was getting notes and drawings and schematics, because the way the roll cage was going to be is very different than what it is for GT. Like it's just a completely different setup. But obviously, as far as I know, it's legal. I mean, Kevin's if, at the end of the day, if Kevin says it's legal, it's legal. So.
And that was good. These guys dealt with Kevin a lot throughout that process, and just went back and forth. And he was great. Like he knows the rule book inside out. He obviously
literally wrote it.
And like there's a lot of things that you really need to make sure is correct before you go ahead and engineer something, and then you're like, you can't have that, and you're like, oh shit, like that's the entire build is based around that, then you're screwed. So they dealt with him a lot. Everything was done in CAD and drawn prior to being created, so there was a good like visual document of what was going to be produced before it was done, and then went through and built the car from there. So it was a long process, but here we are. It's getting better and better, and this season has for sure stepped up a lot with the adjustability that we have with like the guys spend a lot of time in the off season redesigning some stuff to give us more adjustment parameters, and just in areas that we thought could be better last year. And it's got the big motor in it now, so the stroke 6.6 litre, it's around 1100 horsepower. So it's got the power now, it's got the steering, it's got the feel, everything's feeling good, it's got a ton of grip. So that's one thing I've kind of been pleasantly surprised with. It's we haven't gone hunting for grip yet. We've sort of put in like a pretty mid down the road setup, and it's definitely got good pace. So like we have got a little bit more in situations like at Atlanta with Kristaps in top 8. We probably would have liked to grip it up slightly more.
Yeah, so he runs a really grippy setup.
Yeah, his car is very, very fast.
Super fast.
Yeah, especially as we come out of the chicane, he can get the power down so well, so quickly, and that's where he got an edge on me, was to get away from me. I found once we were in the section, I could close up on him, but by that point you're playing catch up and you make mistakes, and you're trying to shorten the line to regain that proximity. So you've got to have that drive and that grip everywhere, and that's where his car out of the gate, and he's like obviously a super aggressive driver, and like he's just like, let's go, like we're not hanging around, let's go. So it was things like that we now, as we can progress into those brackets, we need to know for this, like when we get to here, like everyone's starting to ramp their cars up, everyone's trying to push them harder and harder as it goes on. Like you see from practice prior to qualifying to the final, the cars are totally different.
Yeah, the lap times start dropping like crazy.
It's on another level. So we just need to work on that now, and that's just data collection, and as we go, learning, keep learning more and more about. Obviously, the negative side to that is if you go and overgrip your car and you come up against someone slower, you've got to be chasing them.
You're going to be locking those front brakes real hard.
And then side bite and everything, like especially on a bank track, you just can't hold the car back. There's only so much the front tires are going to let you do, and it's just going to straighten up, and you're going to throw it away. So it's about that, fine line, being just fast enough, not being too fast. You just want to be a little bit quicker than the other guy. So it's just, there's a lot of drivers to learn their style. There's 35 plus drivers. So it's a lot of people to keep your eyes on and sort of get a feel of who's fast, who picks up their speed as you go. A lot of different lines, driving styles, techniques, and everything. So it takes a while to learn everyone's style, and then obviously trust them in a battle. Like you want to push 100%, but you've also got to be smart about it and try to, like, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're going to make contact, break something, and take yourself out. So
Which I mean was Orlando last year with you and Alec Robbins, which now I believe you're up against.
I know,
now,
it's
so
very,
it's like,
very, very funny the battle tree, how that's played out.
We talked to him earlier, so like I got both sides of this, so it'll be good. But
hopefully we can have a clean run this year. Like last year was unfortunate with the weather again. Like that was just come off the bank and
wild night.
Yeah, and he just obviously switched to aggressively and spun, and then we made contact. So it was unfortunate, and then we couldn't fix the car in time for top 16, which we would have gone against Dylan Hughes, which, if things play out the same way, we'll be against him in the top 16 again.
Wow,
so
I didn't even see that part.
It's very funny how the battle tree's almost identical for us that side from last year. So
nice.
Yeah, but hopefully everything goes smooth and we can have some good battles and keep the weather good.
I think we're good. I think we're good.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, I appreciate you taking a few minutes. I'm super excited to see the progression of this car. It's just been exponential since day one. And obviously Atlanta, you really started looking like you had this dialed in. Everything was working properly. And even practice, the progression from first lap to qualifying was quite good. So should be good.
Yeah, no, can't wait. It's, round one was unfortunate. We had the engine problem, but felt good from that point. And then we were able to show that at round two. So hopefully we can keep that going and have a good couple of rounds ahead.
Nice. Well, I appreciate it.
Sweet.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching the Outer Zone here, the official podcast of Formula Drift. Once again, my name is Jacob Gettins. Thank you to all the drivers that took a couple minutes out of their crazy day just before battles to give us some updates. If you like this type of content, let us know. If you like longer form interviews, let us know. Maybe let us know what driver from today you want to have a full-length episode on. But thank you again, guys. Thank you for sharing, liking, all that fun stuff. We'll catch you on the next one.